George of the jungle, strong as he can be.
Okay, George, are you ever going to get back to this blended rate calculation? Yeah. Welcome again to thecreditjungle.com. This is George Anderson, and this is going to be part 2 of this blended rate calculation. How do I decide if I want an adjustable rate home equity line of credit or if I want to do a cash out refinance? So just going back to where we built on, we kind of got up to this point on the explanation. I want to just go back to this HELOC thing and make a point that I didn't before. You can access up to 90% of the equity in the home, okay? Whereas here you can only get 90. Now, it's like somebody giving you a credit card with a line of credit. Just because somebody gave you the credit card with a $10,000 line of credit doesn't mean you need to go out and spend it. Your closing costs are not going to be any higher here. Now, if you go up to 90% available line of credit versus 80%, it might change your margin, okay? You might, instead of being at prime, you might be prime plus 1.5, prime plus 2, whatever. Those are things that you have to factor in yourself. But even if you just wanted to have up to 80% on here for this, you're going to be able to get 80% of the 750 on there is 600,000. You can have a $200,000 line of credit, and if you pull your 100,000, you're only using half of it. So for those of you who are Nazis on figuring out your balance to ratio, utilization on there, this would only be using 50%. You'd have a good balance to limit ratio on here. It would help your credit score stay within range. You want to try to keep it. If you have good credit and everything else, if you have established credit, you can use up to about 70% of your available credit, not get dinged too much for it. But anyway, let's go back to this and figure out this blended rate calculation here. And what you have here is, we already know that if you do a cash out refinance, this mortgage is gone. So there is no blended rate calculation because you have substituted a $400,000 debt at 3% for a $500,000 debt at 5.5%. So your rate is 5.5, okay? So our rate here, this is kind of our target rate. We want to look and see, how do we compare where we are going to be and we know we're going to be there versus where we might be based on current rates versus those rates going up sometime in the future. And again, if you're looking at doing home remodeling and all this other stuff, okay, that's more of a long-term investment, putting it into the house. Maybe a cash out refinance makes sense. And if you say, well, I'm going to be in the home for a long time and I just don't like this adjustable rate thing, it scares me, okay? Let's run a calculation and see how long you have to worry before you can really get scared on here, because we already know that this is going to stick you right at 5.5%. So here, you're going to have 80% of your debt at 3%, which means that is 2.4%, okay? 80% of 3 is 2.4, and here you're going to have 20% of your debt, and we're running this kind of at projected Wall Street prime, where we're going to be by the end of July, and then we're taking at prime plus 1, okay, which is probably a very average, if not slightly above average rate that you would get if you have good credit. So anyway, 20% of 6 is 1.2, okay? So now, instead of having your debt, all of your debt at 3%, you've got 80% of your debt at 3%, 20% of your debt at 6%. So you now have a blended rate here of 3.60%, okay? 3.6 is less than 5.5. So the total amount of interest that you're paying here is significantly less, okay? And the nice thing is that you still have this 30-year fixed rate mortgage, which you've probably been into it for at least a year or maybe a few years, and you're already a couple of years into the amortization curve, which also factors in how quickly the debt is being paid off. So this thing is, yeah, George, but I've heard the Fed's going to continue to raise rates, that the economy is going to go into recession and it's going to be horrible and it's going to be back to the late 70s again, where we had Paul Volcker raising prime up to 21% and everything else. Yeah, that did happen, and I was in high school when that happened. I remember it, but I don't remember it causing me any financial pain at the time. But where do you need to be before this rate, okay, goes so high that your blended rate exceeds the 5.5%. Okay? So in other words, how many Fed rate hikes do we have to have? Okay, we haven't had, them at this pace for a while. So I'm not saying that this cannot happen, but I want you to see where the break-even percent is. The break-even percent here is 16%. Okay, 16%. The Fed would have to, Wall Street prime would have to go to 15%. We have not been there since 1981, folks. Okay, so not saying that that can't happen. However, when that did happen, it was within a few years that they immediately started cutting those rates back down again. Okay, so it was there for a short period of time. But 20% of 16 is 3.2. Well, 3.2 plus 2.4, 5.6. At this point, you have now crossed over the line, and your adjustable rate mortgage here is punishing you for not having done the cash out refinance. So what's the answer to the question? I don't know. What do you think is going to happen? Okay, I mean, I have an opinion on this, but my opinion doesn't matter. This is just based on where you feel that things are going to be going here. And if you think that you might be selling your house at some time, remember we've talked about this underlying mortgage here being a very, very powerful financial asset in addition to the equity of your home. So hopefully this calculation helps you understand how to make an educated decision, how to look at the math and figure out your personal situation. I would love to talk with you about yours and just see what makes sense. Obviously, I make money here. I don't make money here. Okay, I'm not trying to write a loan every time I pick up the phone and talk to a customer. Okay, what I want lifelong customers who know that they can come to me for honest and objective advice. And right now in this market, with what I think is going on, for most people, I think that the home equity line of credit, which I don't do, I just refer people to, well, where do you bank? What's your bank or your credit union? I refer them over there because I think that that is a better financial decision if you think that prime, Wall Street prime, is going to stay at or below 15% for the next given amount of time based on the numbers here. So anyway, hopefully that helps. Thanks for coming into thecreditjungle.com today. This is George Anderson. Push button, get mortgage professional, and allow me to talk with you about your situation. I would love to help. Have a great day.